Hi everybody, it's Lisa from ToCreateAWebsite.com, and today I'm doing blog versus website part 2. Many of you guys probably saw the video that I did a couple of years ago where I talked about the difference between a blog and a website. And a lot of that information, actually most of that information, is still pretty relevant to today, but I wanted to do a more in-depth video and talk about a lot of mistakes I see people making, particularly with blogs, because in 2010, especially the last couple of years, most people are choosing to create blogs instead of websites. That's fine. I totally understand it because blogs are much more dynamic, especially from a user interactive standpoint. They're easier to create. So I totally understand why people are choosing blogs, but unfortunately, people are making a lot of mistakes with their blogs. So I wanted to do a follow-up video to that original video on blog versus website. And let's talk about some things that people do wrong with blogs. Okay, so as you can see, you're looking at my blog. But as many of you know, I also have a static website. So what is the difference? Why do I have a blog and a website? Now, I want to put this caveat in here right now and say, guys, I am speaking from my experience, okay? I am not trying to impose what I've done on anyone else. I am talking about what has worked for me. And you have to understand that I created ToCreateAWebsite.com back in 2002 when it wasn't even an option to create a blog. There were only websites at that time. So I created a blog much later. And to be honest, I didn't really have a direction or strategy for my blog. I just sort of created one because everybody else was doing it. But let's talk a little bit about the difference between my website and my blog. First of all, my website, it's static, meaning it doesn't change a lot. I don't update it nearly as much as I do my blog. And the information on my website is very deliberate. In other words, step 1, step 2. This is the place I send people when they want to learn how to start a website or a blog, because the content doesn't necessarily change that much and it's easier to navigate from a step-by-step point of view. Now, let's go over to my blog. My blog is more or less a up-to-date site that talks about the latest and greatest information on web design, promotion. This is where you come if you want to learn about what I am blogging about today, currently. It's a site that I update regularly, at least once a week. And it's sort of like a news-oriented site. This is not a site where you would come to if you want to learn how to create a website, because it's just basically a bunch of articles organized by category. So let's say I didn't have a website, okay? And let me just hide this top navigation for a second. Let's pretend I don't have a website. And someone came to me and said, Lisa, hey, I want to learn how to build a website. Where can I go? And I say, oh, just go to my blog, blog.tocreateawebsite.com. So they come here and they land on the homepage and they're looking. And I don't know about you, but let's just pretend you've never created a website before in your life and you want to learn how. What is the first thing that you would click on this page? It would confuse the heck out of me. I wouldn't know where to go. And that's why this is not for tutorials. My website is for tutorials. My blog is for, like I said, it's sort of like a news-oriented website with the latest and greatest information on marketing, promotion, making money, and whatnot. That's how I've personally branded my blog. So that's why at the top of this blog, I have a very prominent link that gets quite a bit of traffic that says create a website, because I want to guide people back to my static website and tell them, hey, this blog is a site for current information, news type articles, what's going on today. But if you want to learn step by step how to create a website, go to my website. And so I direct them back to my static evergreen site that doesn't change as much because it's easier to navigate. And so that's what I want to talk about. A lot of people are creating blogs when they either should be creating websites or do a better job of directing people to where they need to go. And what I mean by that is nothing wrong with a blog. Totally understand why many of you guys are choosing blogs. They're much more dynamic. I mean, how cool is it that you can just install plugins? And like right here, I have this plugin that shows automatically my most commented posts. It puts the number of comments after the title, and this gets updated automatically. There's so many dynamic things that you can do with a blog. But the problem is for many of you guys, if you only have a blog, not a website, and let's say you have a tutorial-based type of website. Let's say your site is about how to cook or how to learn how to cook. Typically, that would be more or less of a step-by-step type of website. There's more of a deliberate organization for your content. Step 1, step 2, step 3. A lot of you are creating blogs for this type of site. And so you go to the blog and you see the most recent posts, but none of them guide the user to what they need to do first. So they get confused. And you cannot assume that people are just going to use your search function and find what they need to find. If you want people to come to your site to learn how to do something specifically, you better be very clear and guide them right off the bat, or they may get lost and go on to another site. So I am not by any means saying you should do what I've done and create a blog and a website. My point is, if you are going to create a blog and only a blog, make sure, especially if you're using WordPress, which I think is much better than Blogger, just my opinion, you definitely want to make sure that on your homepage of your blog that you guide them to where they need to go. Make sure you have static links, kind of like I have on my website. I have static links that don't change. If you want to create a website, start here. What do you need to set up a website? Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Tell people where they need to go. Don't assume that they're just going to search around your blog and you'll confuse the heck out of them when they look at your most recent posts and you don't tell them how to start. So if you're going to build a blog, that's fine. I don't have a problem with people just having blogs. But if your site is a step-by-step type of website where there's specific instructions that they need to follow, make sure that's clear and evident on your homepage. Make sure you make use of static links. Customize your homepage so it just doesn't show your most recent post, but it shows the people what they need to see to get started. And don't assume that people are just going to search. So when you're trying to decide whether or not, sorry, I just hit the microphone. When you're trying to decide whether or not you should do a blog or a website, don't just think about which is easier, which is prettier, whatever. Think about the function of your site. If it's a step-by-step, deliberate type of site where people need to follow specific guidelines, think about it. Okay, do I need to do a website or do I need to do a blog? And if you decide to do a blog, make sure you learn how to customize your blog so you get people where they need to go. Because remember, blogs were really originally developed for news type sites, sites where the content doesn't necessarily have to be in a specific order. But the great thing about blogs, especially if you use WordPress, you can tailor them so they act more like a website. But the problem is many people don't do that. So they have these tutorial sites of, how to play golf or how to start cooking or how to learn how to cook. But when you go to the homepage, there's no getting started information. So people are confused. So that's what I wanted to talk about in this video. I don't believe that everybody should create one or the other. I would never say, oh, you should definitely start with a site or, oh, you should definitely start with a blog. I'm personally happy that I have both. One thing I've definitely learned with my website, even though I don't update it often, the traffic continues to grow. And I think a lot of that is because my site is established. I have a lot of inbound links. I would never just say, oh, build a website, don't update it, and people will just continue to come to your site. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I am established. But I've also noticed the same thing with my site Build It website. Another site I don't update very often, yet the traffic has doubled in the last year. Again, a lot of that I think has to do with the fact that it's established. But I can say this, if you build a blog and you don't update it, especially if it's new, the traffic is not going to grow. In fact, it may actually decline. So one thing I've definitely noticed with my websites is that the traffic does tend to continue to increase even if you don't update it as much. At least that's been my story. So that's really all I wanted to talk about, guys, in this video. Blog or website, choose what's best for you. But when you're thinking about which one you should select, think about how you're going to organize your content and what makes more sense for how you need to navigate people through your site. You may choose a blog, but you may find that it's better to organize it so you have more static, deliberate information up front so people don't get lost on your site. So that's all I wanted to talk about, guys. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye-bye.